Recording in progress.
Good evening. Tonight, work session of the Greenbelt City Council. My name is Emmett Jordan. I serve as mayor. I'm joined by my colleagues at the table.
Kristen Weaver, Mayor Pro Tem.
Danielle McKinney, council member.
Silky Pope, council member.
Amy Niesel, council member.
Rodney Roberts, City Council.
Jenny Pompey, council member.
Well, thank you. Tonight, we'll be talking with our county council representative, Ingrid Watson. She should be here any minute now. Let me go ahead and kick the meeting off just quickly. We do hold these council work sessions on Mondays and Wednesdays several times a month to exchange information with community stakeholder groups or to gather information from staff, advisory boards, or residents. No votes or formal actions are ever taken at work sessions. Our work sessions and our meetings are open to the public except for executive sessions as authorized by state law, so that residents and others can observe council's deliberations. We do strive to provide reasonable opportunities for the public to voice opinions on matters being considered, and we'll pause periodically for public comment. During these times, if you wish to address council or to the city administration or to ask a question, if you raise your hand after being recognized, you can go over to the podium and state your name and where you live in Greenbelt. And if you are on Zoom, you can submit a comment or question using the Q&A tab at the bottom of the screen, or you can raise your virtual hand and we'll promote you so you can speak. Or if you are watching on cable TV or on Facebook or YouTube, you can send an email to us. The email address is questions@greenbeltmd.gov. So we ask that you limit your remarks to 3 to 5 minutes and speak on one topic related to the question under consideration. And as always, we ask that you avoid questioning the motives of others, and in general, just try and be civil in your remarks, and we'll all do the same. So let's see. Are there any information items from council members or from Mr. Samaron?
Good evening. I'll have 2 information items.
Okay. Anybody else? Well, we can go ahead and take those items now, if it's council's will. Okay.
Sure. The first one is a meeting proposal. I was speaking with staff this morning during our staff meeting, and we had an idea to make it easier for council, given all the upcoming budget meetings, if it makes sense to have several budget work sessions in one day. So right now, as it is, the budget work session schedule spread out over several weeks. Staff was wondering if it makes sense to council and if it's feasible for council of having a Friday meeting where we will meet all day, or the time frame that council is interested in meeting. That way council could have several budget work sessions in one day.
Friday?
On a Friday.
Starting what time? Because I work.
Whatever time's feasible for council.
Well, just as a general concept, I don't have a problem with having a longer one-day work session. College Park and many of our peer city councils across the county actually just take a Saturday and work through the entire budget book. Now, that we could not do that in Greenbelt the way that we do it, but the idea of blocking out 6 hours a whole day and taking appropriate breaks, and I think we could probably get through 4 or 5 sections, which would save us quite a bit of time. I don't know. The Friday might be problematic, though. Yeah, Mr. Roberts.
Yes, Friday is a problem. And I think I really object to the fact that we would have supposedly, 6 work sessions in a day or whatever, 6 issues. I think that's not good for the public. because the public's not going to sit there all day and listen to this. And spreading it out for me right now is much better because, as you know, I need to be working on something else because I have a deadline coming up that I can't miss. If I miss this deadline, I'm sunk. I'm losing everything I own pretty much. So, no, I don't want to stop on a Friday or any other whole day. You know, I want to come to a meeting for a few hours, you know, in the evening like we've always done. And that's the way we should continue to do it, in my opinion.
So what about a half day?
Well, I think, are you thinking a Saturday half-day or,
Perhaps a Saturday half day.
I think it's an interesting idea. I think that could allow some people who wouldn't be able to attend an evening meeting to attend some meetings. I think Friday night, we're probably not going to get as much interest from the public on that. Were there thoughts about which departments might be suited for a different arrangement than we usually do?
From today's conversation, it started because we're trying to address council's request for finding times in the schedule. And so we're looking at consolidating work sessions. So we found a room to consolidate 2 work sessions that don't typically take up a lot of time. That would be the planning and community development, merging that into the miscellaneous grants. So that'll be 1 work session that's going to free up either the April 10th or the April 15th meeting. And then the conversation evolved, well, would council appreciate a all-day meeting on Friday starting during the business hours? And that would allow for several work sessions to be done in one day, and it frees up those Monday, Wednesday schedules for other things. If council is looking for more opportunities to meet or free up some of that schedule.
So you were thinking of starting sort of mid-afternoon?
Well, we're open to starting at 8:30, 9 o'clock for a meeting. Now, this is, again, it's just a suggestion. We're offering a suggestion in response to council wanting to free up some of the schedule. So we have 2 options, and one is viable, which is, and it makes sense to do, which is combining planning community development with miscellaneous grants. The second option we have is we can find a way to consolidate more times on a Friday, but I understand the concerns. This is just a suggestion. It's not something that we are necessarily promoting. We're just responding to council's desire to find time in the schedule. Saturday is difficult because it means bringing in the entire team. So a Saturday work session will require more planning. It's a bit challenging on our end.
Councilmember McKinney?
Yeah, you might have just answered the question, but I was going to say maybe for some of the topics, a Saturday, not all day, might actually be more attractive to some members of the community to participate, because sometimes in the evening, especially for parents, people who work, it's difficult to get here. But on a Saturday, especially if there was enough advance notice, maybe if it was 1 or 2 items that that we had a lot of interest in, we could look to put that there. But I do understand the constraints with staff. But, personally, I'm open and flexible to whatever the rest of the council, what works well for the rest of council.
You bring up a good point. One thing that we have talked about in the past as far as contribution group and the recognition group hearings that we usually have, that tends to be a long session, and we're asking a lot of organizations to come and talk to us. So for some of those organizations, it is a bit of a hardship coming in the evening, particularly not really knowing what time they'll be coming in.
Yeah, I think we usually schedule them pretty precisely. At least last year, I think we gave them a schedule and they knew exactly what 15 minutes they were coming in for. So I think that's an interesting. I think something that I would like to see us do is make sure, and I think part of this may be sending reminders for council about like which sessions are coming up, and reminders about reviewing it and getting questions to staff ahead of time, because we were able to do that with at least some of our budget work sessions last year. I don't think all of them necessarily, and I think for things that that way some of the questions can be addressed in writing ahead of time, and then that means that any discussion items can happen during the meeting, but that can maybe streamline some of our evening sessions.
Yes, and we're planning to do those notices and reminders to get questions and sending out the materials.
Councilmember Pope.
Started that a few years ago because at some point, you have these work sessions, there's a lot of questions, a lot of detailed questions, and, it needed some researching and all this stuff. So it's always better, and that's actually great that the newest members, we remind them as well. If you have questions, please put them in ahead of time in writing so everybody sees them, and then everybody can, once we get to the meeting, we are able to get the answers, the correct answers immediately. As for Fridays, I'm available at 3 p.m. because I work Fridays till 2 this year. Next year, I'm going to work till 5 o'clock. That's being said. So Saturdays, is also a problem. Of course, if we have to do them, then I'll prefer Saturday, maybe half day at least, but with enough forewarning because I do plan my weekends as well. There's other activities that I need to attend to. But yeah. Friday during the day is just not, except I'm, school's closed. So.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, Friday during the days are also difficult for me. I also work full time, and while there are some Fridays I can take off, like they're very specific Fridays. So I think it would almost be more difficult for me to schedule that. I would be open to doing like maybe a half day on a Saturday, but also a full day budget work session is not terribly appealing to me anyways, because it's very dense material. It's a lot to get through, and I just want to have time I want to be able to give all of the material my full focus, and I worry that if I'm in a meeting for 8 hours looking at numbers, it's going to be really hard after a few hours.
Sounds like the recognition groups might be a decent thing to think about doing on a Saturday.
Yeah, I think for a lot of the, a fair number of the groups, Saturday would actually be more convenient. I wonder, how does College Park do that? They do their whole budget one session.
Well, because they don't care about the public. That's why.
Hold on, Mr. Roberts. That's just not true. They care. Please go ahead.
Well, whatever, that's my opinion. What other opinion can you draw by, doing business like that? Laurel does the same thing. But, I just want to remind everybody, some of us that work for a living, we don't get paid when we don't work. So if I have to take off, a whole day, whether it's Friday or Saturday or whatever, I'm not making a dime. And also, I have this other deadline, a job that I've got to have done. And so I would appreciate it if we would just continue with the way we've always done, because we've never done just one issue per work session on the budget. We've always done multiple issues in a night. And, that's the way I hope we do it, because I need to make a living and I need to get this special thing done. And, taking off on a Saturday or whatever is really, really, would be crippling for me. And so I think we should do it like we did, a couple hours each night. Because, and the other thing is, when we change around the dates and the times when we do stuff, we just confuse the public, because the public is used to us meeting at a certain time, certain day, and doing the budget the way we do it. We change that, people don't know where we are or what we're doing. So please, just at least for this year, let's leave it like it's been.
Yeah, those are all good points. Let's wrap up this discussion. Though I do want to say that some people who follow the budget very closely, because our sessions, there's so many of them, they're so spread out, it's hard to follow the whole thing. But on the other hand, now that we're streaming and everything is available on YouTube and Facebook and everything else, it should be a little bit easier for people to follow. They can look at the replay and speed it up 4 times or something, and get through it a little bit faster. So
Thank you. I appreciate the feedback. We're trying to be responsive to the concerns. So just an idea. So thank you.
to your second one. So we're joined tonight by County Council Member, District 4 County Council Member Ingrid Watson. She has served proudly in that capacity now for almost 2 years. And prior to that, he'd worked in that same capacity under other county council members for about 8 years. So, we really appreciate your time and just the focus that you have placed on Greenbelt. Want to thank you for all of the assistance you've provided around the residents over in Charleston North, distributing bags, food distributions, just so many different things, HOA meetings. So, Ingrid, it's great to see you tonight.
Thank you so much, and it's great to be here. So whatever questions you have or anything that I can help with, certainly here for you all.
Excellent, excellent. There's a lot of things going on in the county around the pending county and state legislation. Also, the county executive just recently released her budget proposal. But I don't know if you'd like to just open up with a brief statement, just talking about some of the things that you're most passionate about or focusing on.
So I can kind of talk about some of the things that I've been sharing with Greenbelt residents in the last month or so. But as you know, the budget was released on Friday. We are looking at a deficit situation, but we are moving forward with that. The county executive mentioned that it's about 1% bigger, which is not much of a change at all for the budget. So she's freezing over 800 positions. There's cuts to agencies, not to our schools or public safety, but there will be some decrease in dollars through most of the departments. And of course, now it's our turn to kind of dig into the details, and we will have our budget hearings starting next month. As chair of the Government Operations and Fiscal Policy Committee, many of the agencies will come to my committee, and I will hear what their budgets look like. And like I said, dig into the details. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a busy next couple of months. And of course, outside of the budget, I have other responsibilities as your council member. There's a lot going on in District 4, but I think it's all good things. And of course, when it comes to education, continuing to stay focused on what's going on with Spring Hill Lake, and that looks like it's moving forward. Certainly advocating for our environmental policies, and of course, about the plastic bag ban. So my reusable bag effort has been very successful. I was very successful here. It was good to see everybody come out to get their reusable bags. And of course, crime is a major concern for all of us. And I held a crime forum in November, and we're continuing to have discussions specifically with our state officials. And there's a large juvenile crime bill moving through. And today was crossover, so all the bills from the House moved to the Senate and vice versa. So we'll see how that one major bill moves forward. So there are about 3 weeks left in the legislative session. It seems to go pretty quickly. One of my I would say my main priority is quality of life. So it was certainly a pleasure to be able to work closely with Josue, and of course you all on helping the residents of Charlestown North. I'm looking at some legislation to help make it much more difficult for somebody to do that to our residents. And my office has been working with Josue on getting some great points to put into the legislation and figuring out how we can best move that forward. Again, we are supporting our seniors, our residents with disabilities, families who need our support with rental assistance, job training, finding employment. And certainly one of the biggest pieces for many of our residents is housing. So we do have a lot of calls to our office, specifically seniors who are about to be evicted or looking for a place to live. So that's a tough situation a lot of times because you can't, just get funding right away to help somebody. So I'm working on, partnering with organizations to help make some funding available for our seniors when they face those sort of difficulties, especially when it comes to quality of life challenges. Also, you talked about the HOA roundtables. I've been working very closely with all the HOAs in District 4, and we had a very successful HOA roundtable. We had DPI come in and talk about permitting specifically for homeowners. And it was a very good session. The presentation, the information they provided is on my website, so you can find it there. But if there are any questions, you can always call my office when it comes to a permit or anything going on, with roads or anything that's specifically concerning DPI or Department of Public Works and Transportation, any questions that you all have. Also wanted to share with you, I know there was a question specifically about the bus routes, the routes 11, 16, and 15X. So those routes, I wanted to let you know they're not up for elimination by the county. So hopefully we will maintain those routes. Otherwise, we're focusing on generating revenue. So FBI headquarters, Blue Line Corridor, the old Cheverly Hospital site. And speaking of Cheverly, the health center is moving forward. I have to look at the budget and see kind of where we are with that, but it was scheduled to, open spring of 2026. But I'll provide more information as it becomes available in that regard. So I think that's all I wanted to share at this point. I do have other legislation that I'm sponsoring and, of course, co-sponsoring. And there's one piece regarding stormwater management that we're working on. So there's several things that, residents and several of my municipal partners like yourselves have brought forward that helps me kind of formulate the legislation that I look to sponsor. So that's what I'm doing at this point. I'll keep you posted.
Hey, well, thank you so much. I'd like to kind of initially just drill down on state and county legislation a bit with the crossover day, the day when all at the state level, all the House and Senate bills have to be cross-filed. It really gives a pathway for legislation to go forward. So this is a key time today. And I know you've been very, very engaged as far as spending time in Annapolis and working with your peers on the county council to advocate for some state laws, changes and modifications. So you mentioned some that you're working on county bills that are going forward on the state level. Can you talk about a couple of those?
Which specifically did you want to know about? So I can give you that information because I don't have the specifics in front of me.
Well, I know one of our legislative priorities has been to try and gain some additional authority around land use and planning. So there was a PG, I think it was 105-24. I know you advocated for that. We're not asking for much.
I advocated for it, however, my colleagues did not. So it did not was not supported by the overall council. However, I believe it moved forward. I know that was something that Delegate Holmes was sponsoring. So I'm not sure of the status and if it had a senator cross-file. So I'd have to check on that.
Don't believe it made it. It was cross-filed.
Yeah, I don't think so, but I'll ask Delegate Holmes for an update.
There's 3 or 4 bills that and they're county bills, and just on the county level, the rent stabilization piece. What's going on with that bill?
So in regard to rent stabilization, the sponsor, Councilmember Oriada, has we were able to. She put forward a bill to extend the current 3% bill for 6 months. So that is extended for 6 months, and then we are looking to hone or make some amendments to the what will move forward as a permanent legislation. So every council member is now moving forward with putting in, their own requests for the bill to the council, to the sponsor. So I've met with several property owners, including the owners of Franklin Park, and they've given me some great feedback. And I'm definitely going to share that with Councilmember Oriata and my council colleagues to see where we go. We are all kind of in discussion about it at this time.
What do you think is going to happen with that? Do you think the bill will be, the stabilization part might be, the percentage might be a little bit less or more?
Well, let's just say we're looking at what Montgomery County put forward, and we're using that as kind of, I don't want to say a guide, but we are kind of comparing kind of how they move forward to what we're planning to do. So,
Ms. Pope?
Yeah, so I'm glad that Franklin Park reached out, because when I was talking to Denise Knight, I recommended that she reach out to you once again, so, and she did, because I do think, I'm in favor of a rent stabilization program. There has to be something, there has to be a cap, but, I also think that we need to listen to our property owners and businesses. That fits, that works hand in hand and not against each other.
right, we have to strike that balance because we don't want to, we definitely want investment in our county as well. And we don't want to shun that away.
Right.
We need that revenue. But we want to make sure that our residents are taken care of, and that's priority.
Right, and I really appreciate that, that you're willing to listen and work with them. I think that's very important. Like you said, we want to work with them. We don't want to seem like we're business,
Averse,
unfriendly, right? Because we had that reputation at one time, and we certainly don't want that. So I do appreciate the efforts on your side as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, there was a statewide bill, I think, that had to do with zoning. It has to do with the location of cannabis dispensaries. And I know I don't know if it's county or state. It may have been a county statewide bill. So
there
and
is
you're
a-
probably familiar about that.
Yeah, there's a
lot of
state
concern.
bill and there's also a county bill. So we actually introduced it last week, and so that's kind of moving through right now. And working through, I can share more particulars on that with you via email, and I can actually share the bill with you so you can see kind of what the information is included in there in regards to dispensaries.
Ask about one more. I was on a phone call this morning, and Councilmember Pompey, you were on there as well, and we got a presentation from the county planning department, and they were talking about a bill, CB 15, which is sort of revising the comprehensive zoning rewrite in terms of the implementation and grandfathering in different types of development. So can you talk a little bit about that? We Greenbelt, as you know, we're bisected by the Beltway. The Capital Beltway comes right through Greenbelt. So half of our community, or a third of our community, is considered inside the Beltway, and the rest is outside the Beltway. But some of the provisions are different, just in terms of the process for discussing and negotiating on public benefit amenities.
Right, and I'd love to hear your perspective on that because I'm still kind of, the omnibus bill that's like 200 and some pages. So I'm still going through it, right? But I'd love to hear your feedback on that and what you'd like to see coming forward because as I look through these bills, I see a lot of things that would definitely impact you and, of course, the city of Bowie, other jurisdictions in my purview. So definitely want to get the feedback on that, but I'm still digging through the details of that bill.
Yeah, it's a big deal, and a part of it really has to do with townhouses and multifamily developments. So it's different for communities outside the Beltway. There's more control over just being able to negotiate and talk about the sort of amenities that should be available, but inside the Beltway, it's different.
Correct.
So we're weighing that, and there's a discussion today, and I brought up a couple of questions because we need to take a close look at that.
Well, I'd love to hear your questions and, like I said, your feedback so I can, make sure that I can share that information with the bill sponsor.
Okay, thank you. Hey, council, any other legislation that you have questions about, county or state legislation? Well, it's good to know that you're always available for us to, weigh in. But what happens too often is these bills they come across in their hearings, and we don't always get adequately informed about them until it's too late. Fortunately, we recently retained counsel to help us manage better, stay on top of these bills. But they come through pretty fast, and the hearings, the committees that you chair and sit on, and
Right. And one thing that I can share with you because of budget season, there won't be much legislation on our agendas. So we'll be focused on the budget. But we do have our council meeting tomorrow with some introduction of legislation. But I'll do my best to make sure that you're aware. And I know I spoke to Tim about, helping him keep up with kind of those anything that you all need to stay on top of. I work with my staff to keep you all informed as best as possible.
appreciate that.
Yeah, we
Thank you
do.
so
I
much.
definitely want you to know. So I might even text you and let you know. So we'll keep you posted for sure.
Okay. Hey, so you briefly, the county exec just released her budget. So can you give us a heads up on the hearings? When can the public weigh in on the budget? When can we weigh in on the budget? And what do we need to know about?
I will get you the dates on all the hearings, the public hearings and the committee sessions, so you can listen in and you can provide your feedback anytime.
Big is that county budget?
What is that? $5 billion? Yeah. So it's pretty big. Yeah.
It's pocket change.
You may be enough for me. I'll take a.
Like I said, it only went up 1%, so we didn't see that much of an increase.
You mentioned freezing positions. An issue has been hiring and retention. So will there be some county layoffs? And
No, I don't. She did not mention at all any layoffs. I see, what I believe is, we have certain positions that were open and funded. So some of those will be frozen. Some of those, at least 800 positions. I'm not sure where those positions were, in which agencies, but I'm sure I will see that as we move into the budget.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's keep moving on. We'll pause for some questions from the public in about 10, 15 minutes. I was going to maybe shift over to the schools a bit. You mentioned that the Spring Hill Lake Elementary School reconstruction is on course, to the best of your knowledge.
Correct.
And you're aware of the controversy around the Dora Kennedy French Immersion School as being first the place where students would be pivoted, actually moving the school to, was it Kettering?
Kenmore, the old Kenmore School.
Right. And apparently they've changed the plan. It's shifted back. They would be moving the school over to Goddard. We do value having that school here in Greenbelt. We include it as one of our schools and include the principal and the education, the teachers and the students in our discussions and as we recognize individuals in our school system. So just wondering, long term, we're wondering about the future of the building itself. It was our original high school, and it's really a beautiful structure. You go in the original part of the building, the gymnasium, the beautiful wood floor, and sure. So it's something of great concern to us. We feel that it needs to be preserved. So have you had any discussions with constituents around the Dora Kennedy French Immersion School?
I haven't had specific discussions, but I've received many emails. So haven't had a chance to talk with them because I've kind of referred them to their school board member. he has more information, and he and I are supposed to meet and talk about that. So I haven't actually even discussed it with Mr. House yet, but that's kind of on the agenda for me within the next week or so to get an update on what's going on.
Okay, I just wanted to put a pin in that because
Oh, no,
long
it's-
term, we
yeah.
want to know what's
Sure.
going to happen with the building and how we can be involved. Mr. Roberts?
Well, I don't want to know what's going to happen to the building. I want to know that nothing is going to happen to the building other than improvements to the building. Because not only, is it a historic building in the city, and it's a very well-built building, just like the one over here. It just doesn't have the fancy stuff on the side of it. But we need more schools in the county. I mean, we're talking about 2,500 apartments at Beltway Plaza. Where are the kids going to go to school if you tear that building down? And we know how much it costs to build a new building, and so they'll never build one as well as that one. So it would be best to invest into that building. So I don't know if the county council has any say over school board's ability to tear down buildings or stuff like that. I don't know if that ever crosses your desk or anything, but
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't.
anything that you can do though, as far as, pulling ears or whatever, help us keep that building because it's
Right.
an important building.
No, and I totally agree with you. And I know I had to do something similar in Bowie with, they threatened to close Pointer Ridge Elementary School. And we worked very hard with the school superintendent to kind of stop that from happening. So look forward to seeing what we can do to help preserve the building and figuring out what next steps would be. So definitely don't want to see anything happen to it.
Just another point on that is, so as the mayor mentioned, the plan is to move Dora Kennedy permanently to the Goddard campus. It's going to be integrated into that campus now, and then to swing the Spring Hill Lake School into that DKFI building for 2 years. And I expressed this to Mr. House, but I just want to express it to you too. So in your conversations, you can reiterate this: is that there are many physical maintenance issues with that school now that the children who are in that school right now are dealing with. And my understanding is, since our meeting here, things have gotten a little better at that school. They now have some freestanding. Yes, at Dora Kennedy, they have freestanding like water coolers now, and some of the classrooms that were like 85 degrees have portable air conditioners now. But we just want to make sure that when we're swinging kids in there, that space is habitable, and it's a healthy space for our students and our teachers who have to be in there. And I have concerns that it's not very healthy now. So I just want to make sure that we're not putting some of our most vulnerable students into a situation that is going to be unhealthy for them. So just really emphasizing that they need to make sure that the physical improvements that are necessary to make the building habitable. I'm not asking for a renovation. We're just asking for habitability here, which I think is a bare minimum. So if you could just sort of keep that in mind, that, we're keeping an eye on that. We are going to make sure that happens. But I feel like reminders from all sides on issues like this are helpful.
No, it's great because, like I said, I plan to meet with Mr. House to get a status, and we'll share all of this information with him. So thank you very much.
Councilmember Pope.
Yes, thank you. So just piggybacking on that, I worked in that building for over 10 years until it was pretty much closed up. And when French Immersion went in there, I know that the first floor, the first wing, the front wing, and the top, the second floor was renovated, right? But I don't think anything happened in the back wing and downstairs. So my concern is if indeed Spring Hill Lake, when Spring Hill Lake is being rebuilt and we're going to be housed in that building, we're at 800 and some students, almost 900 students in time. The first 2 floors is not, there's no way we're going to get all these kids in there. So that means we would have to take some of the other older wings, right? If the entire school goes there, unless they try to split us up. So can you ask maybe what has happened? Did anything happen downstairs below the lunch, the lunch area and the downstairs? Because I don't think anything has happened down there, and it was in very, very bad shape.
Yes.
Yeah, I heard there were mold issues
Oh,
and,
there's
and,
to- oh,
and
mold-
things like
mold.
that. So if
Oh,
kids
mo-
are going in there, that needs. I mean, I
Yes.
don't know what the plan is, but
Well,
if
it
children
was
are
not
going in
just
there, it needs
mold,
to
but
be.
it was also structural, I think, issues in that building. So, I mean, that's just, hearsay, but
Right.
but I know I worked in that building. I know what downstairs looked like when I left. And if nothing has happened, we went in there a few times, and it looked pretty bad. So maybe we should just ask, did anything happen? Is anything going to happen? Because it really needs to be a safe space. Yeah.
Well, speaking of health, you serve on the Health, Human Services, and Public Safety Committee. So you talked a little bit about the Cheverly Health Clinic. It's moved to Greenbelt, and we're anxiously waiting that. Seems like another great opportunity for our residents to be close to healthcare, affordable, quality healthcare services. On the other side of our community, we've got Doctors Hospital, and I know that you've been actually working with Luminous Health and Doctors Hospital, try and help to expand some of the services provided there. Do you have any updates on the maternity services there, or the expansion? They're building, they're doing a lot of things.
I haven't met with anyone at Doctors since, I mean, that's primarily Councilmember Olson. So he would have a better feel for kind of what's going on. I received a invitation to go to the campus not too long ago, but I haven't been able to get any updates since that time, so.
I was reading that County Council did meet because the County Council is our Board of Health, and there was a meeting recently. So what are some of the health issues that are facing the county that are being discussed on that committee as they pertain to Greenbelt?
Well, heart disease is number one killer, unfortunately, for women here in Prince George's and overall, as well as diabetes. Obesity is a problem, and we're struggling with mental health challenges as well. So we have our health department is working very hard to put things in place in all of our districts to help with those challenges. We do have a great health system. Of course, everyone struggles with staffing and making sure that we have enough nurses and doctors. But I think we're doing a good job right now, trying to mitigate some of the challenges. But of course, we're just really helping people understand, putting the word out about being healthy food, healthy neighborhoods, working with our children in our schools to have healthy meals, et cetera. So.
Yeah, around healthy meals and healthy food, Greenbelt is fortunate. We do have a variety of grocery stores. Everything's closing up at 10 o'clock at night. So after 10 o'clock at night, it's a food desert here and a lot of other places in the county. Was there any discussion about that? It just seems to be before the pandemic, most of our stores were open 24 hours a day now.
Grocery stores?
Grocery stores, yes. The Giant and the Safeway were both open 24 hours
I
a
don't
day.
go grocery shopping that late.
No, but after a long council meeting at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night.
They have changed their hours, so, but we haven't had any discussion on that. But I noticed it myself, so from like midnight, I noticed from midnight to about 10 o'clock, so a lot of them don't even stay open until midnight anymore.
But I think that has maybe safety reasons too, and with all the other things that's going on, I think. And of course, they also have to weigh, how, to open the store, they're going to have to weigh, the electric is on, they have staff, and they're struggling as well.
I kind of think that perhaps some of the stores have gone to self-checkout and they have so few employees in the store they cannot stay open anymore
So
because
I'm
they've
sure
cut back.
I'm sure that has something to do with it as well, just don't have enough employees. Store.
Would have to talk to the store owners. I don't have an update
But
on
with
that.
the health screenings, you mentioned, cardiovascular disease in your most recent newsletter, and that newsletter comes out every month. You mentioned some health screenings coming up at Luminous this week, I think, on the 20th.
Correct. Yes.
Have any other health-related activities coming up this month in Greenbelt?
I can't think of any right now, but I know we'll have some. I'm sure whatever happens, whatever comes up, I'll be sending out in a flyer. So just know that I have a lot on my plate, and I do my best to recall everything that I can. But flyers are helpful, and I will get those out as they come to my as they hit my email and my desk.
And we appreciate some of your initiatives around beautification. And I guess Earth Day is coming up. Do you think you might be able to join us on Earth Day or Arbor Day on the 20th of April as we plant a few trees? Or do you have some other
Send me
things?
the invitation. That would be great. I know I've gotten other invitations as well, and I'm also planning an environmental workshop series. So the first one will be in April. It'll be on composting. So we are going to talk to residents about using their green pail that the county gave out, of course, to the county people who have county trash, but as well as open for all residents to learn about the basics of composting. We want to make it family friendly so people can bring their children, and we want to teach the kids too. So that'll be the first in the workshop series, and then we'll talk about recycling efforts after that.
That sounds interesting. Do you think we can get a hold of some of those green recycling pails to distribute to our residents?
It doesn't apply to us because we don't have county.
Yes, I know.
So
but
it wouldn't it wouldn't do them any good.
I was just.
I know.
Well, it'd be nice.
We have our own little green composting bins for the USDA pilot for food scrap pickup. They're very nice, the small ones.
And I think education is the key. A lot of people don't understand composting. And I look at Nextdoor all the time, and they have the green, trash cans, or even what cities offer to their residents, but they don't know how to compost or even, what is appropriate to recycle. So we want to put that education out there, and, get everybody involved.
Is that catching on in Bowie and Glendale?
That
Composting.
The buoy composting is doing pretty well. I mean, it could be doing better, of course. Like I said, more understanding is needed. Glendale, I'm not sure of their efforts because Glendale is under the county, so they use the green bins. So
Okay. Well, let's pause for some public input if we have any questions. Is anybody online?
There are no hands raised online.
Okay, well, we have a question. We have two questions here, three questions. Please, sir, could you go ahead?
Good evening. My name is Maurice Crawford. I live at 7C Laurel Avenue in Greenbelt. And my question is about Metro Bus and the bus. The bus has proposed reducing the schedule for the R11, so it runs only 45 minutes. And when you dig into the website, they suggest that an alternate bus route is the G12, which indicates to me that the folks at the bus are not talking to the folks at Metrobus. And I was wondering what you all could do to get those two parties together to talk about bus routes and efficiencies between the bus routes. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much. I think the R11 is a WMATA bus route, but your point's well taken, particularly with WMATA discussing cutting back service on the G12. So the county bus routes that serve Greenbelt directly are the 11, the 16, and the 15X. And we're really, really sensitive about these cutbacks that WMATA is proposing. Just in terms of the span of service, people need to get to work. And if they're working in DC or working over in Northern Virginia, they need to leave here at 6 o'clock. And coming back, if one wants to enjoy a hockey game or a concert down in Washington, D.C. at the Kennedy Center, you literally have to leave by about 9:30 or 10 to get back to Greenbelt using public transportation. So we really need your help as a unified front to try and work with WMATA to mitigate these cuts. We appreciate the budget constraints that are facing WMATA right now. So what's the county doing to try and work with WMATA? You've already said that.
I stated that, the
you
routes
stated
are
that
not
the
up for
V-Bus-
elimination. For 11,
Elimination.
16, and 15X, right?
Right.
They're not.
You said elimination. What about the span or the frequency?
I have to look into that and get back to you. I'm not sure. Yeah.
But the broader question about WMATA, how is the county council working with the county executive to try and make sure that our residents can get to work and can
Well,
families to go to things in the district in Northern Virginia and in other places in Prince George's County when the bus is not running?
Well, I can speak, for myself as well as a couple of my colleagues. We're definitely fighting the cuts that WMATA's trying to make to the buses. So we're working very hard and sending our own letters to them, especially for our personal jurisdictions. So we are fighting those cuts.
We've sent some correspondence. Our residents have testified, opportunities to speak, because public transportation. We need that now. People complain about the traffic, and the way to move ahead on traffic is to have public transit that's frequent, convenient, and affordable. So
Totally understand that. Like I said, I'm an advocate for it as well.
So thank you for the question. And we understand collectively, and we're doing everything we can because people need to be able to use public transit. Mr. Schachter?
Leon Schachter, 9B Parkway. I have one question and two, I think, pretty short comments. I also want to mention that I'm a former member of the Cheverly City Council for 14 years, so I may give you a little bit of information about that relative to what you said. First, my question is, I'm a little confused on the current status of the rent stabilization. As a renter, of course, I care a lot about that. Is the law extended for 6 months, or is it a proposal to extend it for 6 months?
No, it is extended. We voted to extend it last week.
Okay.
So it's extended. The current legislation with the 3% cap has been extended for 6 months because it would have expired in April. So we wanted to have the time to develop a good bill moving forward that would be the permanent legislation.
Makes a lot of sense. As you're considering whatever becomes the permanent law, my landlord never charged tenants for water and sewer. They're now doing it as people sign new leases. So just be aware of that. I think that should be prohibited. It's just a run around the cap, but it's happening to me. A comment, this goes back to the council's earlier discussion about combining meetings into a half a day or a single day. If they could find a suitable time during the week. The budget you work on, I think, is the most detailed and the most important thing you do that overshadows and affects everything else. And there's a difference between reality and the appearance. And I think the reality is you're trying to reach out to the public and include them, whatever you do. The perception, unfortunately, could be, of all things, to consolidate and vary from your well-known normal schedule. The budget should be the last thing that gets changed. People need they're creatures of habit. And to change when you're going to meet on the budget in particular, I think it creates a perception you don't need. It's not true and you don't need it. but it'll be there with some people. Uh, the thing about Cheverly, just for our council person's information, there are many residents there that are all worried and upset about how whatever replaces the hospital is going to change traffic patterns in and out to that facility. And as homeowners there, that's the last thing they want to happen. So you're trying to get the word out. Please do whatever you can do so that the ingress and egress to that former hospital site is just exactly what it is now. And you don't turn Cheverly into some kind of a thoroughfare. So that's my piece about Cheverly. I know I'm here in Greenbelt, but it's just an opportunity to mention that.
Thank you.
And Mr. Crawford, I don't think I answered your question completely. You specifically mentioned the R11.
I misspoke. I meant the 11 bus.
The 11 bus, okay. Yeah, thank you. Mr. Orleans, and then Coach K.
Thank you. I'm sorry, is it Mr. Crawford? Crawford? Thank you. I don't know if Mr. Crawford is aware that on Wednesday at 3:30 in the afternoon at Greenbelt Metro Station in the two county bus stalls, they're going to have he would have an opportunity, as would others, to come and talk to the county DPWT folks about existing service on the R3 routes and also prospective changes, which are negative. The county email suggests that they're making the changes in Greenbelt to provide more equity elsewhere in the county, and I'm for more equity, more equitable bus service elsewhere in the county. But the whole of the county needs more bus service than it has now. So I don't know, denying Greenbelters 2 11s sometimes an hour as opposed to having only one an hour necessarily is an equitable response to the situation. One of the changes proposed by the county is to start serving Laurel. And for years now, the county has not served Laurel because Prince George's County pays RTA, has gone by different names over the years, but essentially Howard County's and partly Anne Arundel County's bus operation to serve Laurel and to Laurel and to College Park and Greenbelt. And I'm curious to know, Ms. Watson, if in fact, if it's correct that the county is going to be providing service to Laurel, that would mean that the county is no longer sending money north to Howard County for the service that we're now getting, which is not very much service, but we are getting some. Do you know the answer to that question? Well, thank you. Mr. Crawford should hopefully know that the practice of council has been for many years. It was generally once a year, and it's somewhat less than that now, less frequent than that now. But to have a work session devoted specifically to transit, where WMATA and the bus folks would come in and talk about routes. So I hope you'll keep an eye out for that whenever council and management decide to schedule the next transit work session. I'd like to go back several minutes to the discussion of the rent stabilization bill. Ms. Watson, I'm not disappointed that you might have met with the Franklin Park property owners or other multifamily complex property owners. This is the first I'm learning of it, and I appreciate Ms. Pope's suggestion that it's important to talk with all multifamily property owners, but I haven't heard any suggestion that you're willing to meet and would we meet with the tenants of Franklin Park, who are, as recently as a few days ago, indicating their desire for a permanent rent stabilization of 3%, and have ongoing problems with Franklin Park management, despite council's very good relationship with Franklin Park's management. So if you'd be willing to schedule that meeting, I'll be in touch. And then there's one last thing, of course.
Well, can I just respond really quick,
Sure.
Mr. Orleans? I actually have a meeting. We're working to schedule a meeting with the residents of Franklin Park. So moving forward with that, thank you.
I look forward to that and
Thank you.
hearing about that as well. these are residents that management has suggested you meet with?
No, this is a separate meeting. So
Would
I
these be
meet, I've been
residents?
meeting with residents as well as property owners just to kind of gauge a full response. I want to make sure that I have responses from everyone. I've always heard from the residents regarding the rent stabilization. I know how they feel, and I talk to them all the time about it. Just recently, I wanted to acknowledge and talk to the property owners to find out their perspective so I can have a well-rounded perspective and make the best decision possible. But I've also met with, members of CASA and other organizations that specifically to meet with residents. And one of the meetings that I'm scheduling is with Franklin Park residents.
Very
Later
good,
on,
very good.
Ms. Watson,
Thank
when
you.
you're ready to leave, and I hope you'll give me a minute, and I'll give you my email address so I can start receiving your newsletter, and we can talk about this a little further. One last item. I'm thankful for Ms. Watson's representation of Save Bark's interest, and that's inclusive of a lot of Greenbelters and other residents of District 4 with regard to the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. We've had one meeting, a relatively short, abbreviated meeting with the county executive, and she knows that I'm interested and others are interested
Thank
in
you,
knowing
Mr.
when we're going
Owens.
to have our second meeting. And I thought maybe someone on Greenbelt Council might want to discuss that with you as well. I look forward to talking with you later. Thank you, Amy.
Let's see, Coach K, you had a comment, please? Also, the statement that WMATA does not serve Laurel is incorrect. The 83 and 86 buses do.
The county.
That's not what you said. But please, Coach K.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Councilwoman Watson. I'm Coach K from Franklin Park, 15-year resident. Sitting here listening to all the money and things that they're going to, and I'm for the kids. I didn't hear anything for recreation or anything that the county's doing or anything. And I just was wondering, is there anything going on, especially for where I live at in Franklin Park, where we have a bunch of kids. So we don't have a lot of recreation over there. I don't know if you're aware of that. Yeah, we don't have nothing there, but my first thing I want to ask you, I'm jumping around, but I want to ask about the Armory. I used to be a member of the 629th Armory Greenbelt. I know that Armory like the back of my hand. I was one of the cooks there. And I noticed that they have a gym in there. They have all kind of offices. They have a cooking kitchen in there. And I don't know what's the plan for that, but that building could be utilized as a sort of a nice rec center for the kids in Greenbelt. It could be cooking classes in there. There could be all kind of little things that we could do in there for the evenings for the kids. The youth, we got to do something about the youth. They're going crazy in the streets, and we got to utilize any kind of facilities that we have for them. And that building's sitting there. There's parking there. It's just so much that we could do there, and it's just sitting there. So I don't know what the county has planned for it. I see they talk about it, got to talk to the state and talk to this and that. I'm one of those that just go straight to the source. I don't believe in going, we got to go through, but I know that's how it works. So I just want to know about that. And also,
I can tell you that the city, we're working very, very hard to obtain the Armory. The
Okay.
county really doesn't have a role in that.
okay. My next thing is about, somebody asked about the stores staying open late. Is that what they asked? Well, jokes on the streets is nothing good happens after 10 o'clock. So everybody needs to be in their house. I mean, being for real, we all watch the news, and it's not safe to be out after certain, even in the daytime. So as far as the store, I understand why the owners want to close, because they feel like there's nothing good happening after 10 o'clock. So, also real quick, do we have any plans for the homeless? Um, I don't. I mean, once again, there's some buildings or something that we could do. Something we got to do for the homeless. Um, I talk to some of the homeless. Sometimes I give them $1 or two, and I ask them like where they come from, where they staying. Is there a shelter nearby? And I think, am I right in saying no? There's no, shelter in Greenbelt, right?
Not in Greenbelt, no.
None in next door neighbors, nowhere. There's no shelter.
No, we have, there are people that are displaced in Greenbelt. Yes, definitely. And so the county, I would like, if you could speak a little bit about how the county is looking at shelters and whatnot. There are not enough beds. And I think sometimes, well, I know for a fact that sometimes the county, through its human services, will actually place people that are displaced in hotels throughout in Greenbelt. So can you say a couple of words about the homeless population in the budget, or just, in the Health and Human Services Committee? Have you had some discussions about homelessness?
We had a young lady come to the council meeting a couple of weeks ago and specifically talk about being homeless and the plight of the homeless. And I get a few calls to my office about that. So I know our council chair is working on an initiative, and certainly will be working with her on that because it's a real problem. And it's hard for our homeless population to find shelter because most of the time the beds are full. So we do need more work in that area. And so we'll be certainly looking at the budget to see where those dollars are going to assist the homeless population.
Well, that armory, you could put beds on the gym floor. It got a kitchen already, and it got offices that you could have services for the homeless. It's right it's not in a residential area, so to speak, so that people will say, "Oh, I don't want it over here." It is no transportation, so to speak, it'd be kind of rough. But there's a suggestion.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
And I would also like to get some information, phone number or something, or
Okay,
email.
no problem.
Thank you. Thank you.
So just continuing on that just a little bit, for the northern part of the county, if someone is experiencing homelessness, we through Greenbelt Cares, we work with people in a very direct way. We do have an emergency relief fund. But are there any beds for families in the northern part of Prince George's County?
I can't answer that right now. I'm not sure what, the capacity is in the northern part, but I can get the information for you. So,
Well, I've got a few more things to talk about. Council members, anything burning issues on your plate? We can talk about DPI issues. You talked about them a little bit, but we continue to hear from our business community and folks seeking permits to do renovations and important work. There's still a backup on getting permits from DPI. How's that coming along?
it's coming along well. What I ask people to do if they have a challenge is to contact my office. The first piece, the first place they should go is 311. And of course, if they are continuing to have challenges, they should come and call my office, and then we can work with DPI to get the challenge, work through their challenge. So, and I tell them all that, and they do. Either send me an email or call, and we're able to help them get it resolved pretty quickly. So I really would like to know what the challenges are, so we can work with DPI to help eliminate those challenges or help the process move a little quicker. But it's a lot. They have a lot on their plate. And they actually did the HOA roundtable for us last week, as I shared with you. and gave a lot of good information. But like a lot of our agencies, they don't have enough staff to get through everything they have to in the time frame that maybe the resident or the business would like to see. But they're working hard to work through the challenges. So I want to help as much as I can.
You know, that HOA form, I really wanted to go, but you had that scheduled on a Monday or a Wednesday. We were having a meeting or a work session. What did you hear from the HOAs? I know we have many homeowners associations and condo associations that are quite frankly, they're struggling with increases because of insurance costs going up quite a bit. Those condo association and homeowner association fees are kind of going through the ceiling. So what were the top 2 or 3 issues that you heard?
I mean, the basis of the roundtable was for permits for, a lot of people. The biggest challenge is people having illegal businesses in their homes. And people not understanding, there's certain things you just can't do out of your home. And, people are having challenges with Airbnbs, the noise levels, and whether or not they're actually a licensed Airbnb. So I'm looking at, some legislation in regard to that as well. But, then flooding issues, pavement, road work, those types of challenges, fences, what's permissible, what do I need a permit for? Can I renovate my basement without a permit? Can I renovate my kitchen, my bathroom? So there are a lot of things that, basic questions that residents had that they had no clue they had to get a permit for. And, you really don't understand that until you sell your home and then someone purchases it, and then they come in and they say, oh, this kitchen remodel was not authorized. There's no permit for that. So guess who has to get the permit now? The new owner. So those are the kind of things that DPI addressed and some of the questions that the residents had.
Yeah, very good, very good. And you touched on Airbnb. That was going to be my next question. That's the Councilmember Jay Davis question. She always asks about that. The communication between DPI and our city staff about Airbnbs, it just is not, it's not adequate. So
Well, I'd like to know what the challenge is, and then I can, help you all address that. Because I know, right now, some of the residents are having a tough time figuring out if they live next door to one, is it licensed? And some of them are not, but they don't know how to go about finding that information. So that's something that I believe should be made public, at least to understand if, they're a viable business that's next door to you.
yeah, and that's the challenge that we face as a municipality. Sometimes they're not licensed, or the county may license or may not. The communication about the licensing is not, the flow of information is not as dynamic as it could be. So it would like
And,
to.
and so what I'll do is I have some draft legislation that I'm putting forward. I'd love to share it with you to get your comments on that. And so you can help me, strengthen it, or if it addresses your concern or not.
Okay. So just 2 or 3 more things. You touched on flooding and stormwater management. And the Prince George's County Municipal Association, and of course you're the liaison to PGCMA. So I know that stormwater management, more funds for flood mitigation is a high priority for them. We've got a number of stormwater management ponds in the city of Greenbelt, and we've been fortunate to benefit from the Clean Water Partnership quite a bit over the years. And the funding for the Clean Water Partnership, is that going to continue on in the next year?
I believe so. I'll make sure to confirm that.
Looking forward to the completion of the work that's going on over on Orglen and Hanover Parkway. I've been dredging and working with that pond for quite some time. And you have any sense of when they're going to wrap that up?
I actually asked about the status of that, so I'm expecting to get a response soon. I hope to, and I'll let you know. So don't have it today, unfortunately.
Just as a, so as the completion is nearing, I'm just wondering, with the finishing touches, if there's something we can do to improve the amenities. There's a walking trail around the back part of it on private property, but the part that reaches out on Orglen and on Hanover Parkway, the sidewalk's rather narrow, and we have plans to improve a bicycle and pedestrian path there. But there's some way perhaps we can have our Public Works Department talk with you, or as we complete the project, as they complete the project, maybe there's some things that we can amenitize or just improve the way it looks for the businesses on both sides. We've got a large health center moving in back. You aware of that? CCI is a new building. Have you had a chance to tour?
New area or the one that's near Franklin Park? No, I haven't toured that yet.
It's quite large.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they did share that with me, so.
Council, questions, stormwater management, responsibility issues. Anybody want to say anything about those issues? Because we do still have some issues with drainage pipe, in particular, coming down below Crescent Avenue that's flooded in the past. And just working out, Mr. Samaran, we've been talking and working with the county over, Ms. Ruby specifically has been working with the county to try and finalize some right-of-way issues that are still there. And perhaps Mr. George can elaborate.
Correct. We had the study done in the area that you just referenced, Crescent Road. The bigger issue that we're tackling is the right-of-way and the dedication of the stormwater lines. Our planning and community development department are working on those easements, writing up those easements, and recording those easements. We still have some work to do on having the county accept the lines that were installed. There's concerns that don't meet their specs, so we're working through that. We can provide a status report to council, the next administrative report on how that's moving along. We're planning this to be an extensive work.
Yeah, I'd like that. These issues have been around for quite some time. I guess with the transfer of the stormwater management infrastructure back in the 1950s, parts were not accepted in the turnover of the easements. So this has been an issue for about 10 years, to the best of my knowledge, where staff has been trying to work with the county to resolve these questions once and for all.
Right, and there are some verbal agreements that took place that were not recorded, and the people who made the verbal agreements are not around. So, holding folks accountable for what was said has been difficult because it was not memorialized. So the easements are critical for this.
So I'm really hoping you can help us to resolve these for once and for all. They've been a problem. Let's see. Finally, I wanted to ask you about a transportation question. Each year, the county designates a number of projects in a priority letter that goes to the state, to MDOT. And this letter designates the top priorities. And we've been with the FBI coming to Greenbelt, and with us asking for planning funding and being able to put some emphasis on the Greenbelt Road corridor now, before these developments come in. It's essential that our priority rise to the top. Finally, this is another issue that has been on the agenda for 10 or 15 years. So when does the county come up with this county transportation priority letter that goes to MDOT? Do you know when it originates, and how can we go about advocating to get this on the radar screen? We cannot get any federal funding for any improvements or planning on Greenbelt Road or other places in Greenbelt without designation that the work be a priority, a top priority.
Well, it's not only a priority for the council, it's a priority for the county executive. So, and we initiated our letter in October. So they are very well aware of our priorities. And one of them, of course, is the FBI and the infrastructure that needs to happen in order for that building to come to fruition. So yeah, I'll keep you posted on how that's moving. But it is a definite priority for, like I said, for us and for the county executive.
What have you been hearing about the FBI and the relocation? I know administratively on a staff level, there have been some very preliminary discussions about what's going to happen. But as far as county council goes, what are you hearing? I heard President Biden ask for funding for the project up front a few days ago, which was good news.
Yeah, we'd like to see it move quickly rather than slowly. We want to make sure that funding moves forward pretty quickly. Since, this is an election year, so we want to see it kind of cemented before new administration or, if that happens. So we'll see.
Yeah, so in addition to the transportation, is there any sort of, what other sort of planning is happening around coordinating for the FBI coming in terms of a lot of the broader implications for the county and specifically this part of the county? Is that work sort of starting in a concrete way?
At this point, I haven't received any additional status on any planning right now in regards to infrastructure. I know that, there are plans being made. Unfortunately, I don't have a status on, anything additional, but I can certainly find out for you. But, they kind of keep me informed since it's in my district, but at this point, I don't have anything
There's
further.
maybe not too much really concrete happening yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
'Cause I
Not
know
that
that,
I
I mean,
know
I
of.
think for when the previous plan came up, because there's of course the extension of Greenbelt Station Parkway into the station and then the building of the parking structure, as well as changes on the exit ramp. And it just seems like these are not things that you can do quickly.
Right,
So-
not at all. And that might be a question you have on Wednesday or Thursday
Yeah.
for your state representatives. That'd be a great question for them.
I think truthfully, it's probably a question we're going to ask of everybody who might have any reasonable input on it for the next foreseeable future.
Well, I mean, and of course, as I get information, I'll share it with you. And, I'm hopeful that it happens at the same time, but, whatever information I get, I'll certainly share with you. So
That emphasis in the county transportation priority, there's a lot of federal funding that's out there right now through the Infrastructure Act and other funding that it's like a once in a lifetime kind of a opportunity. So really, next October, if you can begin to talk about placing real priority on the Greenbelt Road corridor, it's very important that we start now. Well, gosh, I think we've touched on everything. Oh, crime and public safety.
Your firefighters.
Ms. Pope, go ahead.
No, I have two things noted as well. The volunteer firefighter issues and if career firefighters are being removed from certain stations. So in January, there was like a rumbling going on that I think it was Beltsville that was in danger of losing their career firefighters. And of course, this spreads throughout the ranks. And so, and this has been going on for a few years. Every year you hear a little bit something and it kind of goes away, and you hear a little bit something goes away. So we're just kind of concerned if there's anything going on that you maybe know, have you any knowledge of anything that's anything in the plan of removing career firefighters?
don't think that's in the plan, but I will work with the chief and find out. I can certainly, as soon as I have a question, she's very responsive. So I will find out definitely from her and let you know what the plan is. Sure.
The second thing I wanted to ask was the North County Animal Shelter that we were talking about for a long time. Also within the four cities when we had a meeting, what's happening with that. Years ago, we all went together and I think we contributed to a study, right? So that was at least 6 years ago. I'm not sure. Long.
We pay about $10,000.
I think about $10,000. And the four cities, like I think College Park participated, New Carlton I'm not sure, Bourbon Heights. And so there was a study done if there should be an opening and if how we can work together because it's an issue. I mean, we in Greenbelt have a small animal shelter, this is like very tiny, but we're a lot of times overwhelmed with people who bring their animals there. So we just wondered what's the status? Is that still on the books, or if they decided not to do it, can we get reimbursed for our contributions? So just wondering what the status
I think
is.
we were sent a copy of that feasibility study.
Yes.
Yeah, so,
Yes.
I mean, I think
Yes, we did.
looks like nothing happened with it particularly, so, but we,
If you have it, can you send it maybe?
it was, Josue sent it to us on January 25th.
Can you send it to her? We'll send it to you, and then you have it, and then you can just take a look.
Yeah, and certainly there's a need. There's a great need in North County.
Yes.
And I've actually received requests to have that open. So for sure, that is a big need. And I'm hearing it from other residents as well. So
And it places a burden on the limited services that we can provide in our shelter, because people from neighboring jurisdictions come here because they know that we have a no-kill shelter and we provide services.
And I just saw on the news that the Prince George's County Animal Shelter is totally overwhelmed. With so many animals that were adopted during the pandemic and then now back.
I do have a vet there now. So that's good news.
And I have one more. I went through the minutes from last meeting, and we had asked about inclusionary zoning, if there is anything that the county is doing. Like I know Montgomery County has it, probably some other surrounding. I know Montgomery County for sure, but we wondered if Prince George's County is, if we're going that direction, because I think it's important. Maybe that's something we should look at, because we don't have it. We don't have any, if a builder comes in, we don't have nothing to, we can't tell them, well, you have to have, lower income rentals. We can't do that without the inclusionary zoning. So it might, or senior housing even is so hard to get. Nobody wants to build it because they say, well, we can't make money of it. But if we would have inclusionary zoning, maybe that might be a foot in the door.
Anybody have a bill in on that, or is that included in that omnibus bill?
Oh, that definitely is something that we're talking about. So, like I said, I have to still continue going through the omnibus bill.
Got a lot on your plate,
Yes.
Ingrid Watson. Hey, I got
But that's
two-
a good idea.
It's very, very important. So on the crime and public safety, the Police Accountability Board, that's been in place now for about a year and a half. And hey, do you know anything about that? How's that coming along? How's that working out?
I believe it's working out fine. We did have we had some information shared with us in the committee a couple of weeks ago. But I did notice in the budget that there may be some cuts to the Police Accountability Board. So like I said, we will certainly ask about that when they come to the committee. But we noticed in the county exec's budget that there are cuts to that. Mm-hmm.
So the last thing I have on my list is capital bike share. So, this is we put funding in, about $10,000 in a feasibility study at the very beginning, about 10, 12 years ago. And we finally got two stations, or three stations.
We wanted one more at
three,
Metro.
one Greenbelt
No, we have
station.
three. There's one at the police
Right.
station, there's one at Greenbelt Station, and there's one
Here.
right out here.
Oh, we wanted a fourth one at the Metro station. That's
So
what it
I was on a call with State Highway, and I understand that there's funding in the budget finally for the two final bike share stations. And so I was just wondering if you can bird dog on that for us. And if the money is there, it's like the missing link, actually having a bike share station at the Metro station, because the big last mile gap for many people between WMATA, the MARC train, the buses, and getting home to Greenbelt East or Greenbelt West or the center is just being able to hop on a bike, a Capital Bike Share bike, and ride the rest of the way, particularly in the summer. So we've been waiting a long, long time, and if the funding is now available, can you find out when, how soon they can go ahead and install the station at the Metro and another one by Roosevelt High School? Okay, appreciate it. At this point, I'm just throwing this open. Council, you got questions?
I'm
Please
done with
bring them
my
up.
questions, so thank you.
Because we've only had Miss Watson here before council. It's only been an hour and a half. Well, actually, an hour and 15
Can't let her
minutes.
out.
We can't let her off easy.
Wouldn't be doing our due diligence. I do have a question, actually. I haven't had a chance to go through the county executive's whole budget yet. I know that the blueprint has full funding. You guys are obviously fully funding your locality share. But I do have concerns with, the way, with how the county is going to continue funding the blueprint going forward, because the blueprint is only going to cost us more every year. That's the structure of it. This year, some funds that were restricted for education were unrestricted so they could be directed to the blueprint. And that concerns me because we're still very early in the phases of the blueprint. We have many, many more years of that we have to fund. And I'm worried that the county does not have a plan for that. And the reason I'm worried about that is because the move was made to unrestrict those funds, which tells me we don't have other places to get the money. That money is there for early childhood education, to pay our educators. It's supposed to be this great equalizer. And I just want to make sure that there are plans in place so that we can continue fully funding it through its fruition.
So are you speaking of the taxes that
Well,
were?
that and just going forward, what's the plan? Like if we're already unrestricting funds so early in the lifespan of the blueprint, what are we going to do next year when the blueprint's only going to cost us more money? Because it's every year the county share is going to get more and more and more. And I'm worried that there's no plan in place for that.
I have some information that I can share with you in regards to that in writing. And also, but I think that's, something I'd have to get some more information on to actually articulate it appropriately. But I do have something that I can share with you about the tax revenue towards the blueprint that I have in my email that I wanted to elaborate more on that. So, yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we greatly appreciate your focus on the city of Greenbelt and District 4 and Prince George's County as a whole. So we do have a meeting coming up with our state representatives on Wednesday, and I'm wondering if there are a few issues or questions or topics that you would want us to advocate for on your behalf, or just, you can if you give us a tip on a couple of things to bring up, perhaps we can help move some issues or initiatives of yours along at the same time.
Meeting with the state?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Definitely, like I said, bring up the blueprint information. They can certainly share more so from their perspective, kind of what's going on with that, since that is a state initiative. And I talked to my senators and pretty frequently, so they're well aware of any sort of issues. I know I spoke with Senator Washington specifically about some legislation based on what happened with the Charlestown North Apartments. So they're pretty well informed on kind of what I like to see moving forward. So I think I'm okay in that regard, but I appreciate the
What about
offer.
that other Senator Watson? You ever talked to him?
Yes, we kind of talk pretty frequently. So yeah, he hears a lot of my venting and any sort of issues that I'd like to see moving forward. So we work pretty well together for District 23. So
And what else would you like to see from City Council, from the City of Greenbelt, that would help you in constituent relations and legislative initiatives? What do you need from us?
Well, I believe, we have a good partnership. But any, questions that you have, please send them my way and I'll get you answers to them. And certainly challenges that you feel that you're facing with any agencies or, anything that you need moving forward, I can help you with. Certainly want like I said, my door is always open for residents when they have concerns or questions. And we get those quite a bit. And we do our best. One of our priorities is constituent services. So we do our best to answer all the questions that they put forward or any challenges. I think we all work pretty well together in resolving those. Right now, I don't have any, comment on that because I feel like we talk pretty frequently. We're able to, move things forward and have a good partnership and good communication.
Well, I want to commend you on your staff, Ms. Bunbury and Mr. Archie and
So it's
Those
Jobina Brown and
Jobina
Denise
Brown,
Mitchell,
Denise Mitchell,
and
yeah.
Tamika and Bria Archie. Yeah. So they're excellent. I couldn't do my job without them. So, and yeah, I apologize. I'm very tired. So if I'm rambling, I apologize. It's been a long day.
Well, let's pause for some additional public comments before we wrap up. Is there anybody online?
I don't believe so. No, nobody has their hand up, and there's no questions in the Q&A.
Okay. Mr. Orleans.
I want to thank Mr. Lockhart for bringing up what is to be done with the Armory and making reference to the continuing Greenbelt homelessness problem. Council will know, city management will know that there's an old federal statute that suggests that when any federal property is discontinued for use for its original purpose, its federal uses, some attention must be paid to housing the homeless population relative to where this federal property is. I don't know what's going to happen to the Armory. Council has a better idea than you and I do, Mr. Lockhart, and city management does, but it's not generally talked about except on rare occasions. Council has long intended its use to be for new public safety, generally a firehouse. There's legislation in Annapolis submitted by Senator Washington to issue a bond bill. As I read it, the use is not precisely stated as to the end use of that facility is not precisely stated. Council should be discussing this more so that you and I would have a better understanding of what they want to do with that property. But at some point,
Did you have a question?
At some point, the question might be raised, should it be used to house the homeless population relative to where the Armory is? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, if there are no additional questions from council or the public, let's go ahead and wrap things up. Ingrid, thank you so much for your service. We really appreciate all you do. Try and pop over. When's the next time you're in Greenbelt so frequently? And you mentioned some health screenings coming up on the 20th. Any next time your staff will be doing something here in town?
So our next,
What's your website?
it is District 4, let me see, PGC Council, pgccouncil.us /District 4. So that's pgccouncil.us /District 4.
Of course, we do actually have that on our website. And if a resident has a question or a concern or needs some help with a constituent issue, is there a phone number? They should call 311 first, but how should they contact your office directly?
They certainly can contact us at 301-952-3094.
Okay.
So always ready. They can also reach out to us on our, via our – 'cause email address. They can reach me at iswatson@co.pg.md.us. Sorry, my brain is stumbling at this point. It has been a very long day, so I apologize.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. So we're going to move on and talk about an information item. And Mr. Samaron and Ingrid, Councilmember Watson, if you feel like you have to get up and leave, you should certainly do so.
Very much will do. I appreciate the invitation to speak with you all, and hopefully the information has been helpful to you and the residents of Greenbelt.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Watson. I appreciate all your help with Charleston North.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
You have a second information item.
Yes. So the second information item we want to discuss is preparation for the legislative dinner happening this Wednesday. Primarily, we won't review the menu, but we want to review the document that we'll be speaking from. So that's a draft documents in front of you. We welcome any and all feedback. We want to make sure that this reflects the interest of council, the priorities of council, and what you want to discuss with the representatives on Wednesday. Assistant City Manager George is joining me tonight, so we can workshop any item that you would like to, or anything you want to talk through this item, through this packet.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So just a couple of things with the other discussion topics. These bullets need to be fleshed out. And if you have some other suggestions, since the legislative session is well underway, and our delegates and senator are aware of our legislative priorities, I don't think we'll be spending as much time as in the past covering them. And it's my sincere desire that this meeting be very concise as possible. So we're planning on getting out there at about 6 and finishing up at about 8:30.
Correct.
So other discussion topics might take up half of this, is it third page, I guess, that needs to be fleshed out into paragraphs. And if there are other discussion topics, we can add those in.
Right, and for those other discussion items, the FBI, the administrative teams are having FBI coordination meetings. I think from the state, one of the things I have a question on is one of the transportation bills of creating the 3 different transportation authorities. It was presented to me that would be the funding mechanism for the congestion relief and infrastructure improvement. So that will be a detail that we would probably want to flesh out with the representatives. Whether is that true? How much of that infrastructure improvements are going to be funded through this bill? If the bill doesn't pass, is there an alternative mechanism that the state legislature is considering for funding the improvements for the FBI location?
So we need to find out if the bill did cross over and how it's moving along out of committee. And that's precisely why I put FBI update, MDOT, WMATA, PGC. That each one of these bullet points should be a brief paragraph with 2 or 3 sentences. And yes.
We may need to reconcile that with the email that I think Councilmember Pompey shared with us about the analysis of this bill, that it might create more of an obstacle to the congestion relief of the different corridors.
I think it came from it's not Sustainable Maryland. It's the
NCR.
No, who was that from? It was
It's a Coalition for Smarter Growth.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
And I think their interpretation was that there wasn't actually funding connected to it. So I think there are different interpretations of what that bill would do.
Right.
I think we need to be careful with that. I mentioned that Delegate Spiegel wrote that bill, and he had a long-standing council member of Gaithersburg and president of MML and chair of the legislative committee. So I don't think that it's about widening highways. I think it's more about enabling ways of funding.
We all know
rail.
difference in that,
Sir,
thank you.
please. Yeah, we do have different interpretations, and it's based on our nuances and actually knowing what people had intended. So,
I think intentions don't do much good if that's not what's on paper.
well, I'm just saying that I think a couple of council members have sort of misinterpreted what the purpose of the bill. But let's ask the question.
I think you've misinterpreted. Thank you.
Well, I think, I could go back and forth, but have you talked to the sponsor of the bill? I have. So,
So we'll double check that.
and under bond bills, that should actually be two. The Armory acquisition and our other bond bill should be on there.
Both of which have been, I understand, cross-filed and sponsored by both the House and the Senator. So we should be good to go with that. Now, everyone's being told that it's in, there's no guarantee that any of the funding will be approved given the budget shortfalls and everyone's cutting budgets.
The piece about Dora Kennedy French Immersion School, that would sort of mirror the discussion today. We're just really concerned about what's going to happen to the building ultimately, that it be preserved. And, that might be a future bond bill next year, or depending on how things go. Would like Mr. Samarone to talk a little bit about our upcoming budget. It's good for them to know. What else do we need to talk to our delegates and senator about?
This is probably plenty to cover in that time frame.
Well, as I said, I don't think that I don't think we'll spend that much time on the legislative priorities because it's too late in the session. Would like to move the PGCMA priorities before the MML priorities.
I was just gonna say that too. But I think it's more,
More relevant to
yeah,
to
I think so, yes.
just excellent feedback.
I also noticed it looks like on the summary list on the top one, it says Greenbelt Metro Station improvements, but that's not listed. I'm not sure if that's one that's still as relevant. It's listed on the far left page, but it's not on there, and I don't think that's.
I guess we need to put an agenda cover page on this
Well, I think
because we
that's-
want to actually give our delegates a chance to talk about their initiatives and whatnot. As far as the attendance goes, as of this afternoon, we've got confirmations from all the delegates and the senators. We haven't really gotten confirmations from the county council members, and the Board of Education members sort of up in the air. So it's fine by me if it's just us and the delegates. We get there at about 6. We'd be able to mingle and have some appetizers or something, using celery and carrots.
Yes.
Basically.
We'll have crab dips. We're removing the meat items as council signed a proclamation for the meat out day.
Meat out day,
And,
the
so
20th.
We're going to be eating all vegetarian food?
That's what we're going to offer.
Crab dip is not quite vegetarian.
Right, we've added some fish items. We added some fish items.
It's not plant-based. Well, no, it's
So it has a proclamation for meat out day.
Yeah, it would be really hypocritical to be not to having.
So those are going to
Now,
be.
I would
Those are going to be the
I would
choices.
do as council wishes. We
Those would be the choices
We're all-
that are offered, but if somebody wants to order something different, that's fine.
That should be a choice, I think. That's not a.
there will be an off menu option for those,
Yes.
for individuals.
I fully support having completely not having meat. I would say even maybe not the crab dip. I think vegetarian sounds great on meat out day to me.
I mean, I don't want to tell anybody what they have to eat and what they should eat. I think having, vegetarian, it's just fine.
We'll
I
work that
like it
out.
myself, but I think we should have a choice.
So there'll be an off menu option for everyone.
Telling people now what they can eat and what they, it doesn't matter, but you can't tell people what they should eat and what, no, you can't.
Let's,
You can't tell me
we
what to
can- So as the city manager said, the choices, the articulated choices are going to be vegetarian and pescatarian. If somebody wants to order something different,
That, and that's fine.
the delegates and the senator, but I know what I'm doing.
Serving meat out there.
Yes. Okay, so any other, we've got a couple of days, but we want to finish this up tomorrow because I think we would like to convey it to the delegates and the senator.
Right, we'd like to
So-
print it and
So
package
please,
it.
you know,
and have
take
it
a close look at this. Share your thoughts with the council and the city manager. We'll pull this together, but this other discussion topics would be half page, whole page, PGCMA, and then MML.
Did we decide not to discuss stormwater management because we're trying to consolidate that with Four Cities conversations? Or I just noticed that that wasn't
That wasn't on the
on the
priorities,
list.
yes.
With the PGCMA priorities, it's there.
Is it? Did I miss
It's
it?
under the PZCMA priorities, yeah.
Okay, I'm
We
sorry.
moved that up front anyways. We moved that ahead.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Samarow, Mr. George, you have any questions?
You got everything you need to? Okay. Great. So we're happy if you're happy. Send us feedback.
Hey, well, any other information item, things we need to share? No? Well, let's go ahead and call it a night. I'd like to thank everybody for their attention and going home.
Yeah, me too.
Good night.